Just waiting for it to come up so I can see it. There you know the time. There we go. That's the time from me starting it to seeing the actual live. Just let some people come on. There's one on. Can you hear me okay? There we go. I've got 2 people watching. 2 people watching. I found a well, I can't remember who posted it, like, but it's an old one. It's an old video, 2015, where Guy Taylor's talking with Brian Gerrish from UK column. No, I'm not interested in who is who and who is not. All I'm interested is the information within inside the video that I'm going to share you, and I'm going to talk about it as well because he explains it beautiful. But you know, I think it's going to be it's very important because obviously there's a multi-layer of deceptions here. But obviously this particular one that I picked up on, yeah, because I understood what obviously Anthony was explaining, but obviously and if I'd have heard this man explain it, I'm going to show you now, is Guy Taylor, because he explains it also brilliantly, like, you know what I mean? So for those people that have had, this is what I'm trying to say, for anybody who's had who's alleging to have had a court case, and you've become a victim of whatever that alleged court case has done, be that, you know, allegedly make an order and allegedly, you know, have this paperwork and authenticity of the court to either take your children, your house, or anything. This was the first, because this is what I thought, you know, that anyone can now see. You can see it so plain and simple, because this is one crime that I'm exposing that's affecting everybody. It's a crime that affects all of us if we allow it, if we don't see how we're being deceived. And that's really all it comes down to, guys, you know, because that's what it is. Let those that are deceived be deceived. Now we understand about names, what an all capital word is. It's not an actual word, it's an acronym. So therefore there's some form of trickery going on here because they're putting your names in all capitals, be whatever for the reasons for it. It's immaterial, yeah. But realistically, you know, there's a lot of trickery going on. But the point is, down to the court procedure, which is the main bit about it all, this is what you can actually see, feel and touch. This is where they're making the claim, because you're being allegedly taken to a court or whatever, you know, so they're going to have a record of it, yeah. Because obviously for it to be a court, then that to be in a file, there had to be something, you know, they had to have got a form to fill in and to attach the layer of information, like an affidavit, and on there would be the filing fee that they've paid, the receipt for the filing fee. So that is the main thing that you're asking for of the actual case management file. You're not interested in all the gumph that they're saying, yeah, because that's all about the case itself. That, you know, that's about if the case was legitimate, then you look at that. But if you didn't look at them arguments, because that's all it is, an argument. So if you keep the head out of the argument and just stick to the fact that, has it been filed? Is there a record of that filing? Is there a receipt for that filing? And is there an affidavit attached to that application form to file? Because otherwise there's no file, there's no case, there's no record. Yeah, so it doesn't, it's void of an issue. It's a crime, yeah. It's a crime scene, if you want to look at it as a crime scene. Hey, Marie, I'm being threatened with a prison sentence over council tax. So, I mean, again, then listen to what this is, like, because obviously once you get this solid within inside you, you're not going to accept it anymore. Once you've seen how they're deceiving you, you're not going to accept it before. because I mean, them threats have come from somewhere, and they've come to somebody, and you have to understand who the two is, and if they're with what authority are they coming with saying that. So obviously they're threatening that from the court. So is that the court's threat? Let's see where let's see if that threat came. Let's see the record of what they're threatening. If they're saying this is by a court, if they're taking you to a court, and it's obviously there's got to be a filing of it. Yeah. So yeah, I'll play this. I'll play this video. I don't know how many we've got on watching. How many got on? There's 5 of us watching anyway. So yeah, let me share the screen and I'll show you what I mean. All right, here we go.
And that then triggered, keeping this in simplest possible terms, that then triggered court action.
Yes.
And what actually took place in the court?
Okay, I'm just going to ask you, can you hear it? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it, okay? The other thing is, obviously, what Guy's just talked about was the theft of Tom Crawford's property and then loads of people being out there. It's a very interesting video, but that's another point to what I'm explaining. But that is a very interesting point because they did exactly the same with Tom. They allegedly held a court, but they didn't. There was no authority from the court, and they'd proved it by what this guy had done, by what he was exposing, and what Mr. Abraham was speaking, and Anthony, and all these people are exposing just by asking for the Caseman File to test, to certify whether or not what they're saying is provide the substance, provide the material, the forensics, the material evidence to say that what you're saying is. We're saying with the seal, the orders, these orders. Where's the seals, guys? Where's the seals? Without them, they're null and void. In their own language. So here we go.
Court.
Well, this is where I come in really, because myself and Mr. Ebert and Peter and a group of us, because we've discovered that what's happening in the courts is operating in a private capacity, but. So, and people don't win in those courts. They're banking courts. They're not courts, to be honest with you. They're just private business arrangements.
You had an interesting analogy with this, where you described the courts as a McDonald's. Tell us how that works.
Yeah, well, how I'm saying to look at this is this: if you set up a McDonald's franchise, and me and you set a McDonald's franchise up, and we put on the uniforms and we're dealing McDonald's all day, and we decided that McDonald's are making a bit too much money out of this. It's our business, but it's their franchise. So what do? We decide.
So getting to grasp what he's actually explaining it, just imagine this, right? Yeah. This is a franchise, yeah, meaning all these courts are a franchise. All courts are a franchise to the UK government, yeah? The corporation. It's all a franchise, and they've set up the rules and regulations within their franchise. They must provide the law in this way. They must provide, what they're being asked to provide, which is justice. Yeah, criminal justice system is meant to be providing criminal justice, and they've got their rules and regulations. What makes it makes it what they're meant to be prescribing. So this is what they're meant to be giving out. Yeah. So he explains this. I'll let him carry on.
Brian, you go down to the local cash and carry and get a load of buns and burgers and set a table up in McDonald's in the corner. And every time someone comes in, I direct them to your table. So from the outside, looking in, you would see people walking into McDonald's, i.e. the court, and going in there and coming out with a paper bag, McDonald's bag. But if we examined the burger, it wouldn't be what it was supposed to be.
Right.
And
so what he's saying there is people are going into these buildings, are coming out with paperwork, or they're going in with paperwork, thinking it's from this building. And if it was from the building, then it would be what that business must pump out, be the criminal justice system, just like McDonald's would have to give out the genuine McDonald's burgers. And if they check the ingredients in the burgers, then they would know whether they've made, somebody else has made them inside that court building or inside that McDonald's building and sold them separately. So they're not legitimate or real McDonald's burgers. They're selling counterfeit. or in the court system, the court's got a way of publicly operating in it, but it's working in the private. So the private's taking control and not therefore the public. That's the only court, that's the only real court of record, court of public record. But these have got no records. They're not authentic. Yeah, they're not authentic. You've got counterfeit. This is counterfeiting the authenticness. So they're operating inside McDonald's. Well, these people are operating inside the courts, but they're not genuine.
Where we're going into these courts, believing them to be public courts. They're operating against people in their own private business enterprise and throwing you out the doors, having horse traded with your life.
Right. So we get some clues as to what's going on by relatively simple and easy things to identify. And one of the things that you mentioned very early on were court seals.
Yes.
So we've just got on screen some of the key things, which if we bring this up,
Yeah.
I'll just read it through. So we've got no court seals as required, Civil Procedure Rules 2.6 and 40.2. These
Yes.
are standard requirements. Every claim form must have a seal.
Yes.
Section 1 of the County Court Act says every county court shall be a court of record and shall have a seal. That's pretty.
You understand that? This is the important piece, especially when we're coming down to talking about getting it through to the people that are being tricked and deceived, right? This is right, yeah, because there are people that won't fall for these tricks out there, and I'm not talking to the people that know. I'm talking to the people that don't know. So rather than jump down course it is and say all these things, I'm not interested in yours. I'm interested in trying to bring the people that are being deceived into the light so that they're no longer deceived. Because if everybody stopped being deceived, then none of this could be happening. So for us to stop this, or for me to bring the solution that I believe the solution would be, is by knowing that you're being deceived so that you won't be deceived anymore, because those that are doing the deceiving are doing all the damage. And we can stop them deceiving by just realizing how they're trying to deceive you. Because once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. And now you know if they're going to claim it's a court, then you now know there has to be a court of record. You know, Section 1, the County Court Act says every county court shall be a court of record and shall have a seal. Full stop. You know, documents from fraudulent cases have no seal and no fee paid. So they have to produce the fact that what they're saying is a court, or they prove that their documents are a fraud. And if they fail to produce those documents, when they've made the claim it is a court and the burden of proof is on them, if they fail to produce that material evidence to substantiate their claim, then it's fraud by concealment. That is, you can't, if you're being caught out by a lie, you don't have to tell that. You've got to now tell the truth if you've been called out. If you've been called out, you've got to tell the truth. Otherwise, that's a second wrong. Yeah. So anyway, let me carry on.
Explicit. Documents from fraudulent cases, which is what you are finding, have no seal and also no fee has been paid.
Right.
And then any county court claim must be done with an application claim form supported by an affidavit, and a fee has got to be paid.
So if we look at it very simply, if anyone wants to take a claim out, you go down the court, you get an application form, you fill it out, you support that with an affidavit of what you're claiming, and you pay a fee. They are the key essential ingredients to starting any civil process. So
for anyone to have gone to a court, a man, yeah, or somebody via, somebody's got to have filled this form in. There's got to be a man that has filled this form in, like he's stating here, this application form, to attach your affidavit, or the bundle of evidence, the layer of information that you're actually laying to the court, for them to go through and check to make sure it's a valid court case. Yeah, and then they get there's a filing fee then, because you're filing that into the court. So there's going to be a filing fee. There's going to be a receipt, and that will be attached to this. That's what you need to know. Just like that's like getting that is like seeing the seal. I want to see the court seal. But even if you did see a court seal, if they put a real and proper embossed seal onto a document, but it had nowhere of coming from because there was never nothing filed, then you've got the evidence of them putting an embossed seal on a document to try and make it look authentic when it had no substance because it didn't come from anything, because there was never anything laid for it to come from. It never has. It never was.
Right.
If you've not got those key essential ingredients, it's not been dealt with in a county court.
Okay, and we're going to reinforce here that this is not lay individuals deciding what they think. This is the court's own rules, and it comes out of their particular civil procedure rules.
Yes.
And I think we can call the two key ones we've mentioned up on screen. So we've got CPR Part 2.6. The court must seal the following documents on issue. A, the claim form, and B, any other document.
Now listen to this. This is another point to this. So any claim form. So the document that's got the application I'm looking then, that application must have also had a seal on it. If I'm reading that right, that means they must have sealed that application to accept it. So there'll be a court seal on that application, as well as the affidavit or the paper, the information there, and also a receipt. So there's another point to that scenario if they ever give you that's if you ever, they're not, if it is a genuine case, if it's a genuine case, then that's what they will give you. If those things aren't in there and you get loads of other paperwork, like he says, that's the argument. I'm not interested in the argument. I want to know whether the argument was ever filed. I want to see what was actually there for you to call this a court case. I want to see the application form. I want to see who filled it in. I want to see all this information because it's my right to see it, because you've got a right to file view. You'll see.
That's right.
So that's pretty explicit. And if we bring the other one in, here's the CPR 40.2 standard requirements. Section 2, every judgment or order must bear the date on which it's given or made and be sealed by the court.
Yes, and that's what we've been running with, their own rules. So what we've been doing is going down and addressing that with a request and notice. And what we want to do is go down and examine our court files, and we're entitled to do this under CPR 5.42,
right,
which states that upon application or request, access to the file shall be granted given within 48 hours. So we know once we've put that request across the table in the court, they are supposed to give us access to the court file within 48 hours.
Yeah.
Very often they don't give you access to the file. That's when you know there's something wrong.
And I'm just going to interject here and say, I personally know this to be true from some of the family court proceedings where people have attempted to get hold of these files. Absolutely stonewalled, blocked, delayed, prevented from ever seeing these very important records. Does
that ring a bell to any of you people out there that have sent for your Caseman files? I don't know how many of you actually have done it, and if you haven't done it, then I hope this will make you realise why it's so important that you do it. Because fool me once, shame on you, but to allow yourself to be fooled and to continually be fooled, then the shame is on you, as you should know. And the shame is on all of us, really, for allowing ourselves to be fooled so long. So let's end that shame and admit, yeah, okay, we've been screwed over. Now see how it's being screwed over, and let's see what now our duty is to do to hold these people accountable, because we have a duty now to hold them to account. And that's what I thought when I was sharing this. I thought I'd get that message across to people saying, look, guys, you've all been had by one of these courts. Well, those that have been had by one of these courts, let's find out. Because what I'm saying is, I haven't come across anybody that's come to me where they've said, yeah, here's the case file, you come and have a look. Or here, we'll send it over to you. I've not seen it, and I know many people that have asked, you know, and none of them, they've got no records, guys. These courts are not courts, you know, and it's obvious when you see why. But what I'm saying is, you need, first of all, to see this, to be made sure. You need to be made certain. It's a right for us all, and it's not only a right, it's something that we must all do before we go any further, especially when it's detrimental to our life or our loved ones' lives, to make sure that everything is 100% and you have got full closure and you have got the full capacity and knowledge, yeah, to comprehend exactly what's being done here, so that you can give the right answer, so you don't make no mess up, so they don't trick you or deceive you into something, so to say. Anyway, no, carry on.
There are key reasons for this, because what's been happening is solicitors' offices that have been dealing with things, especially for banks as well as you know, in all matters. But they know that anybody who receives documentation through their door from a court, think, oh God, and they pay up rather than go to court.
So the fear factor means that they then pay up.
Which is fine. But
which is, just to let you know, guys, is the reason why it happens. That's what you've got to understand it. Do you think they would be taking everybody to these buildings pretending to be courts if anyone paid? If everybody stopped paying, yeah, did the due diligence, found out whether it was lawful or not, and stopped paying, do you think they'd be continually doing it? Or do you think they'd have to dry up? You know, that's the thing about taking the food away from the beast, isn't it? It's a bit like the taxation of everything else. When you start to realise what it is you're actually feeding, then you become complicit in whatever they're doing. It's a bit like when people say about war crimes, you know, anybody that's, you know, you can class that anybody as who's paid income tax has been, you know, complicit in war crimes because you've funded it in one way or another. Obviously not with intention, but still funding's funding, isn't it? It's like, when does a liar know he's a liar? Yeah, when he knows the truth. But if he's still telling them, still saying something as though it's true, but it's not, is he not a liar? Even whether he thinks it's true? Does the truth give a shit what you think? No, because only the truth is the truth, isn't it? Anyway, crack on.
what you'll also find attached to that is they've charged you court fees. So you've not only paid up, you paid for court fees. And if you'd go under the request and notice and ask to examine the file isn't there.
Right.
Because it's never been through the court, even through the court doors. So no one's even gone in to buy the fake McDonald's.
Right.
Yeah, that's not even happened. So that happens in a lot of the cases. But in the other cases, what we're finding is that when we hand the request and notice over, we're getting access to the file. And the file may be maybe 3 or 4 foot large, depending on how big the case is.
Yeah.
Some people's cases have been going on for years.
And you see the documents, the bundles trundled around courts with people with suitcases with wheels.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But we don't want, when we're going to see the file, we don't want anything to do with that. That's the story that's gone on.
Right.
What we need to do is take it straight back to its root. And straight back to its root means when the application or claim form was made against you.
Yes.
So what you go there and request is take all that stuff away. I just want the application claim form.
Yeah.
And on that application claim form, I should be able to see the court seal, an affidavit to support it,
right,
and a fee paid.
One sec. Let me just stop that. Don't know what I'm doing a lot. In a minute, 1 second with me. So I mean, what he's saying here, yeah, is where I say that for something to be, there has to be a beginning, and to understand something would mean, obviously, you would understand that beginning. You would be completely understanding of from the beginning. So therefore, for it to be a court case, then what he's saying is this is what's required, and he wants to see the application form with the court seal on it, and the affidavit or the information that was laid to create this court case and the receipt to see that it's been filed. Just right, so let me go back to where I was. Sorry about the interruption. And I'll go back to sharing that. So that you understand what I mean by the fact that, you know, that's all we're asking for. It's just simple, right? It's just the logics. So because anyone can understand this, it's not rocket science, but the importance of understanding it is second to none, because it means you won't be tricked anymore. That's the beauty of it. Bulletproof. Because at the end of the day, if you remain correct, you're in none, aren't you? They're the ones that they're doing something dodgy here. This is criminal, you know.
Paid a receipt
Okay.
for the fee to prove that it's gone through the key ingredients to actually be a legitimate claim.
Okay, so this is the beauty. What Guy is pressing here is that by being very simple and precise, you get to the heart of the matter straight away. So we summarised a little bit of this, and of course this is advice coming to you from lay persons. So there's no attempt to claim something that's not true. This is lay advice, but this comes from the court documents itself. So if we bring this one up on screen. The general advice is to serve a request and notice upon the court, applying CPR Rule 5.4.2, which once applied, access to the court file should be granted within 48 hours.
So, boom, you know, just with that one point now, yeah. Within 48 hours, then they now have to produce that material evidence, which is going to put peace to your mind, if nothing else, that, you know, it was an authentic court case. It was real. There is a record of it. There was an actual filing of this court case. I wasn't just deceived. It was real. This was real. You know, we can argue about whether or not, you know, guilty or not guilty with inside a real or wrong. But the difference is, first things first, we have to establish that it was a court case. Because if it wasn't a court case, then what was it? That's the simple thing, is what was it? You know, if you went into McDonald's and bought the hamburger and you came out and you ate something, what was it you ate? What was it you ate? What burger was it? Did you know the difference between what a McDonald's one and what a counterfeit McDonald's was? Do you know what the difference is between what a real court is and what a counterfeit court is? Just because you're in that building, does it mean it's a court? No, it doesn't. And there's a lot of actors about. We should know that. And we should only know that they can only get away with it if we allow them. And the simple way of finding out is getting this Caseman file, because once you get the viewing of this, you're going to check the first three things that you require. Number one, was there a sealed application form? Number two, was there an information there in the form of an affidavit or police statement? Number three, was there a receipt of the filing fee for the application? To create the case number, to create the case, to make you say that this is actually a real court case and there being a public record of it. So anyway, carry on.
That's unless you're going to be given a rough ride and they're going to block you. Once given an appointment at the court to examine the file, all we're interested in is the claim form, as you've just said, Guy, which should have the affidavit attached and a receipt for the fee paid.
And
so if you want,
not forgetting the seal. And not forgetting the seal. So yeah, just to add to that, yeah, once given an appointment at the court to examine the file, all we are interested in is is the claim from which should have is the claim form. So that should say the sealed claim form, the court sealed claim form. Yeah, from which you have the affidavit attached, which would be the layer of information, and the receipt for the fee paid to enter it.
Want to freeze the screen, pause the screen, obviously you can copy this off. And if these essential ingredients are not present in the file, then there has never been a case.
Bingo.
And the bit we've ended with is that court officials, of course, are well aware of these requirements for a case to be active. So
certainly well aware, because whoever's behind the desk If you went there and you said, I want to initiate a claim against somebody, but I haven't got any money, they might ask you to fill in a fee remission. That's a different thing,
Right.
but that would be receipt of the fee, yeah? But if you haven't got no money, they're not going to initiate a claim against anybody.
Right.
And if they don't put the court seal on it, then it's not been processed in.
Right. And to be precise on this, the seal isn't a stamp. The seal actually embosses the paper.
Embosses the
It
paper,
actually
yes.
distorts the paper
That's right.
as the seal
That's right.
is there.
Embossed seal, guys. There you again. Why an embossed seal? Because you cannot photocopy an embossed seal. Yeah, because an embossed seal is three-dimensional. It indents the paper. It's lifted. It's a lifted embossed seal. And when you photocopy it, your photocopy is going to come out flat, guys. It's not, unless you've got a 3D photocopier. I don't know. I never thought about that question. I wonder if they can. Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, as I digress, shall I say?
And the one of the interesting things is, of course, we're seeing successive governments pressing harder and harder for greater fees to be taken for every document that is requested through a court or entered into a court. So, as you say, if the money doesn't come across the counter, the court is not actually taking on that part of the case.
That's right. But if it's going through, if it's being processed without having the seal on it and without a fee being paid, which we've discovered through many cases, then who's supporting all these actions? It's coming out of the public purse.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's money laundering going on here on a massive scale.
We've got a shadow court system, which
Yes.
you liken to a fraudulent burger production inside McDonald's. So in our court systems, we have this shadow system, which is literally being run as a business. And presumably what we're saying here is you depossess people of their property, and you've got a very lucrative commercial property
Big time.
transaction.
And let's just say that people are investigating certain district judges and judges that are operating in this, and they're finding that they've got directorships on property development.
Yeah.
And that the properties are going down certain roads, and it's endemic fraud that's going on in there.
And of course, it was a gentleman called Danny Bamping in Plymouth who was able to actually get a video clip of a member of the local court staff freely admitting that the local council was actually hiring out the court when they were processing council tax arrears. So we know full well that it's absolute fact that these privately run courts are operating.
Yeah, and that was the magistrates' court, and this is the county and civil courts.
Yeah.
So whichever way you go, yeah.
So I think we can bring up on screen an example of.
So they're all at it. They're all at it. Basically, they're hiring. That's it. All it is the hiring it out, but it's to members of the their little cabals, their little runs. It's like a group of mafia that's controlling the other side to it, the dark side to it, the private side to it, where there's no record of it. If they can fool you, mate, they can fool you, and they'll do you. And they've done many. They've been doing it for a long time, a long, long time. You know, this ain't new. It's just that people are now seeing it because they ask a simple question: can I see the record? Can you make me certain? I need to see that this what you're saying is, that's it. Just challenging their presumptions, mate, just like the Baron told us all.
Of a request and notice. So it's this one here, which is your own.
Yes, that's right. It's my own.
Okay. And so it's fairly simple. It's quoting the 5.4.2 supply of documents. And once that's gone in, you're saying that it's 48 hours. I'll just blow this up a bit more so we can read it. There we are. 5.4.2, supply of documents to parties, including new parties. The documents should be supplied within 48 hours after a written request for them is received. So you're quoting their own rules at them,
yes.
So there's no wriggle room.
That's right.
And then we've got 5.4 brackets 1, any party to proceedings may be supplied from the records of the court with a copy of any document relating to those proceedings, including documents filed before the claim was commenced.
Yes.
And the final bit there, the County Courts Act 1984, 1 brackets 2, every court so held shall be called a county court and shall be a court of record, and and have a seal.
There you go.
So,
There you
so once that document's gone in,
Right.
then you should.
We sit and we wait.
Yeah.
If we go down with 2 copies of that document, we take 2 copies down, and we hand them both over and ask them to receipt stamp ours and give it back to us for our records. And we give them the other. Yeah. We then wait. If they then come back saying that the documents have been destroyed or whatever, then they don't exist. So that's fairly straightforward if they don't exist, which may mean that they've never been before the court.
Yeah.
If they sometimes wriggle and try to fight their way out of it, claiming that you know, they're doing it under the freedom of information, so it's nonsense. It's the civil procedure rules which they have to adhere to, and we then just up the ante then after that, and we imply something after, because if they're not complying with their own rules, then we have a right to imply that there's something going on.
Yeah.
And so we then up the ante and we imply that we believe that this hasn't been through a court, it's been through a private business enterprise,
Right.
horse trading with us. And then we put on the bottom, we offer them 7 days maximum, and then we put implied admission absent a response and compliance. But I mean, that people don't need to go down that road yet. That one can very often open up the file for them.
Yeah.
So we're getting 50-60% of people are getting their files open, getting access to their file just on that document.
Right, and to be fair, we can also say this is on the basis that, of course, not all court officials are corrupt, or they are simply there trying to do the best they can.
Yeah.
And we're going to say in most cases you can expect to actually get hold of that case file.
Get hold of the case file. Most cases you will. They'll just send a call for you to come down, and they'll sit you down and they'll say, okay, have a look at the case file. When they give you the case file, you don't need to go through all the story of it, no matter how horrific your story has been. And a lot of people's story is pretty horrific. You need to get the claim form, and you need to make sure that the claim form is supported by an affidavit. It's got a seal on it, and there's a receipt for the fee that's been made.
Okay. Well, we now jump to reality.
Can't keep drumming that in enough. Can't keep drumming that in enough. I mean, I hope this for people that this video, with what I hope to hopefully interject as well with what I'm putting in there, is that this is what anybody that's been involved or is going to be involved or think they're going to be involved with any of these alleged courts that are going to be coming down to try and harvest anything off you, your material or your children or whatever. It's going to be coming from the councils, I know, but the point is is how to hold them to account, to make them, to stop this attack on you. Because remember, they're not. There's no if there's no registration, if there's no log of any information, if there's no record of anything that's ever been put inside a case, then there was never a case to answer to in the first place. Period. So the rest from that point onwards is all deception, and that's where they get in the argument. He said, she said. Keep out of the he said, she said. Let's just stick to the files. But let me see the application form that's been sealed by the court. Let me see the information that was laid that you say this is a court. Let me see the filing fee. That's it, guys. That's it. That's the key to end this. You can end it differently. You can also end it previous to this with the name. You can do a lot of things also with the application of whatever it is that they're trying to tamper you with. Let's say if it's an act or statute, you can request the consent with your corporation, without where have you ever given the consent to their corporation? Where have you given your consent for those acts or statutes to apply to you, because you've never given your consent to be governed. Therefore, those acts and statutes actually don't apply to you. But I mean, there's many different ways, but this is what I'm trying to say. This is on, because this is more bite-sizable for people to take, and it involves everybody, just like everything else does. But it involves everybody that's being had over. Because basically it's the courts that's having you over. If there's people out there that have done wrong and that should have been brought in front of a court, at least they should have been brought in front of a court of record, and there must be a record of it. You don't need to be fleecing them. And if they are, then they're doing it deliberately, as you know, as a private for-profit organisation, because none of this money that goes into the court goes on a public record. It's going into all offshore accounts. They're absolutely stealing the money from all the people all the people in the land mass that's commonly understood as UK, which it isn't. It's it's mud. It's earth. Call it what you want, what it choose like. But if you're going to give it a UK or anything like that, you're just saying it's a corporation, aren't you? But anyway, I digress again. So I'll leave it. I'll crack on.
Because what we can bring on screen is the case management file received back from Tom Crawford's case. So in fact, there's several pages to it, but we'll just show you the first page. So this is a chronological list of all the documents with the dates that they were entered into court.
When you go into court, Brian, what they do is that you come out with your file like this, and to ease it for yourself, you ask for the Caseman File. That's the name that they apply to this.
Right.
And that's basically that document there. And it's a list, like a menu or like a bank account,
Right.
with all the transactions in and out of that bank account, but of that court case. So it will say case created and the date it was created, when the application form and the fee paid and the affidavit went in.
Yeah.
And then every transaction on that account since that time, whether there's been court cases, whether there's been court cases or letters or anything gone in or out. And that's the complete transaction list for that.
Well, if we bring that one up again, we're just scrolling through to the end of this first page. So this is one of several pages. You can see that it's quite a comprehensive document. We've got a lot of documents listed. But the key bit that we want to go to is what actually occurs on the final page. So if we bring that up now, here we are. This is the final page, which ends with judgment details. And if we take a close look at what it's saying there, judgment details, no judgments recorded.
Yes.
And if we look at the warrant details, it clearly says centre, just underlined, no warrants recorded. And then underneath you've got stars and end of report. So what does this actually mean, Guy?
Well, that actually means that in Tom's case, the Caseman File system says that in that case, all the transactions, there are no judgment recorded and there are no warrants recorded.
Right.
And
So that whole case, nothing ever come of it. Nothing ever come of it in their records. Yet Tom got his house took off him, don't forget.
But the bailiffs turned up on site claiming to have a warrant from the court.
Which we went down the court to see, which they fought tooth and nail not to show us, but we, on that day, on the 23rd, but ultimately the court manager howled up on the other side. He said the judge had allowed him to show us the warrant, but only through the glass because it was so valuable, he didn't want us touching it. And he held up through the glass with very shaky hands the warrant.
Right.
It wasn't signed, it wasn't sealed, there was nothing on it.
And you know what that means then, don't you? So I mean, this is what it it is what it is, guys, you know. This is what's happening, you know. This is what's happening, and this is what the police, you know, you police out there, you know, if you're watching my stuff as well, look, you know what's going down. You can't dispute this. You can't dispute the facts. Remember, I'm interested in who's speaking here. I'm talking about the facts. I'm only interested in the facts, and the facts tell the truth. You know, there's no disputing. There's no disputing, and everybody who's there's the requests for their Caseman File, or this Caseman File view, doing it like they're doing, going down to the court and having that view at the court. When they bring that documentation out there, that first list that he's pulled up that's going to give you the breakdown of what's in front of you, the first thing and the only real thing you need is that first sealed application that created this case. Because if it ain't in there, you know what the answer is going to be at the bottom, because it's going to say exactly the same as the bottom of this one. There was never any judgments made of any of this bullshit that was above me. And there was never a warrant issued. So what are they talking about? Then they said they have a warrant when the courts told you that they didn't have a warrant, but they still did the warrant, and they still did what they did because the police, so ignorant or controlled, whichever you can take your own choice on what it is, you know, doing what they're doing because they're a part of this cabals, these criminal cabals that are doing this.
Other than the button stamp of the court, right? And we've got that on a later one, which we can show that is basically pre-printed on the document.
Right. So a little bit of a fast question for you, but if this documentation is coming out of the court and it's fraudulent when it leaves the court, do you think the bailiffs, I'm going to say a lot of people hate the bailiffs, but we'll ask the question, do the bailiffs know what's going on, or do they actually believe that they've got a valid document in their hands.
We've got so many variations on this. We've got actually where bailiffs are producing their own documentation and putting it through. And of course now we've got the added deceitful cover of the courts are claiming that there isn't individual county courts anymore, that they're all the county court.
Right.
So you haven't got Plymouth County Court, Hereford County Court. You've got the county court, and it's a plural. It's plural. It's for everything.
Right.
Yeah? So we've got that sort of deceit going through at the moment, and I think that's a backtracking by them of what's going on.
Right. So
But
trying to cover their tracks.
trying to cover their
now.
tracks.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, the bailiffs, if they don't know what's going on, then upon notification, upon being told that you're using fraudulent instruments, they're under a duty then to check out what we're saying. So even if they were innocent, which I don't for a minute think they are, but if they were innocent, then upon the notification, they shouldn't be coming round once we've notified them that we know the documents are fraudulent, because there's a section in the fraud, there's sections in the Fraud Act, but there's a particular section in the County Courts Act, section 135, which carries a 7-year sentence for this.
Yeah.
And I mean, people you see the County Courts Act, and very often when you talk to the police and you show them the County Courts Act, they immediately say it's civil because it's got county court written on it. But of course, you can get 7 years in prison for that breach of that particular act. It's Crown Court only. It's only indictable. It's very, very serious. But again, this is one of the ones that they've hidden from people.
Okay.
Another point on that there is this about when you said about about sealing the actual warrants and the orders. These sealed warrants, which they never, these sealed orders, they never seem to be about. Now you've got to ask yourself, if they're so blatantly careless and think that they can do whatever they want, why won't they put a seal on that document? Why won't they put a seal on it? Because if they put a seal on it, it makes it real. And if that makes it real, it makes it a crime. But as it is, it's nothing. It's all an illusion. When they put that seal on that document, they make it real, wouldn't they? That means they've done a crime now, because, like you say, how can you make something from nothing that was laid? If there's no proof that any information was laid to create the court case, they can't make an order on something that never existed. But if they have done, and there's a seal on it, then they're going to have to produce that file case, that Caseman file, to see the information, to see that it was there was a application that was sealed by the court, attached to an affidavit or the information laid to create the case, with a receipt to say that it's been filed, and there has to be a record of it. So that's why they're not. So they aren't. So that's why they're not putting seals on them, because that means they're getting done like they're just tricking. It's all trick. It's all an illusion.
Well, we can have a look at more of the rules and regulations. So we got the County Courts Act here, County Courts Act, 1984. Let's see if we can blow that up a bit. There we are. So penalty for falsely pretending to act under authority of the court: any person who delivers or causes to be delivered to any other person any paper falsely purporting to be a copy of any summons or other process of a county court, knowing it to be false, or acts or professes to act under false colour or pretence of the process or authority of a county court, shall be guilty of an offence, and shall for each offence be liable on conviction, on indictment, to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 7 years. So that's
7 years, guys. 7 years. Now, they can blag it up until they put that seal on it, because now they've got to prove it. They're not having to prove anything at the moment, because people aren't doing it right, because they're answering to it. They're pulling you into this argument. They're pulling you into an argument. That's the thing. They're pulling you into an argument. You don't need it. You haven't got an argument. They've got the problem because they made the claim. The burden of proof's on them. And fraud by deception, mate. If you don't give up the documentation to prove what you're making claim, it's just fart in the air, mate. You've got nothing to follow it through with, so stuff you. It's nothing. Jog on, monkey boy, as they used to say. Baron Wood.
it, is it?
That's it.
So there's no messing around there. It says that if you purport to act for a court, but you don't have the formal authority and documentation of that court, presumably, you're looking at 7 years.
Exactly. And we've got a lot of cases now whereby the police are starting to recognise this because it's been put to them so often.
Right.
And you can have, otherwise, if you have a bent judge and a bent conveyancing lawyer, all hell breaks loose. You know, the conveyancers now over the phone with their key account can change people's property around. And you've got a bent judge working, has got a property development company or as a director of it, all hell breaks loose if they think that anything that comes out of that court is official. We can prove it's not official because it's not to the prescribed form.
Yeah.
And the prescribed form is very simple, and that's why we're trying to keep it very simple for everybody.
Yeah.
They can just apply them rules to it themselves, and they can see what's going on in their own lives.
Yeah. And in fact, I'm sort of thinking as you were talking this through, of course, you can now see the real dangers of electronic databases, particularly when your deeds of your property go into the land registry. Is it a real document? No longer have you got the paper and the seal, something to hold in your hand. So, and of course, if anybody thinks that judges are just beyond reproach, simply do a little look over the last 20 or 30 years in the national papers, where you will find everything from fraud, corruption, to taking their toy boys into court to watch the court action. That was in South Wales, I think, or somewhere like that. So we've got
Also, tampering with court files. Judge Lee. I think Judge Lee was also in the case of Sarah Baldwin's case as well. Judge Lee. It was also in the case of Jason Leon. And that was tampering with court files. See, the judicial side are not to interfere with the court records. You know, they're not, they unless they've got, you know, they can't go in there and start altering things. You understand? Or taking things out without acknowledging it. They have to be given the grant.
another one here. This is the Fraud Act 2006. And what's it saying? Fraud by abuse of position. A person shall be in breach of this section if he occupies a position in which he is expected to safeguard or not to act against the financial interests of another person. So this is all pretty onerous too.
Yes.
And you're saying that this directly applies.
It directly applies. And this is what we're doing, is we're collating all these various acts against these parties when we're able to establish that they haven't got the documentation.
Right.
By the failure to disclose this information, and we're applying that to them and applying it to them. So I mean, ultimately, you know, private criminal prosecutions are available to us, but we need to pull these people out because it's happening on a national scale, and we've been dealing with cases from all over the country, and it's exactly the same essential ingredients. And in conspiracy, they call it patternization, where there are patterns that appear in certain parts of the country for no apparent reason. Well, there must be reasons for that. Yeah.
So I think the figure was 47,000 houses repossessed last year. It's around about that figure. So this is a substantial industry. Average house price, what, £120,000? That's a guess. So we're talking vast amounts of money.
Vast amounts of money. And anybody can go down under those case rules and go and examine the case file.
Right. Okay. And we've got another one here. This is this is Fraud Act 2006.
Yeah.
But this is the disclosure of information. A person is in breach of this section if he dishonestly fails to disclose.
You see that? That's the bit that you're going to get them on. This is the bit that you're going to get them on, because basically a liar never wants to give up the truth, because he's never going to give up this sort, because this is going to be a fact. You know, they only want to keep you in the fiction, because if they show you that the fiction never had a beginning, then it means there never was anything there in the first place. It was an illusion.
To another person information which he is under a legal duty to disclose, and intends by failing to disclose the information to make a gain for himself or another, or to cause loss to another, or to expose another to a risk of loss. So really this is covering the fact that once you've asked for these records, if the court is maliciously preventing you from having them, this falls into the Fraud Act 2006.
Spot on, exactly right.
Yeah. Okay, well, this one you were keen for us to put up on screen, fraud through concealing information, Adams versus the Queen. And
Well, this is one Mr. Ebert uses on all these things, and it's fraud through concealment. You know,
Right.
I mean, they've got an obligation to provide us this documentation under their own rules. They're not doing so, well, they're concealing it from us.
right,
So, and fraud by concealment is an offence in itself.
okay. And this is another example we bring up on screen, one of the documents where you can clearly see what's wrong. So we've got warrant for possession of land, and the bit that is of great interest to you is this little mark at the bottom, which says,
This is so important for everybody as well, because this is so important for you police out there. You police out there, yeah, that are going around, that are enforcing these warrants that people are coming out with, like, yeah, saying that this is a court seal. This is not a court seal, okay? A court seal is an embossed seal. This is called a button stamp, and it come on the paper already. It hasn't been stamped by the court. It comes pre-stamped.
says the county court.
Yeah.
And your, sorry, your comment here is,
Well, this is what they're purporting to be a seal. And it was very interesting when I was in London at an eviction, because the police said they weren't allowed to question documents, even documents purporting to come from a court. So I said, right, fine. So I pulled one of these documents out and said, this is a document. If you're saying that's a seal, that's a seal. I'll fill it in and give it to you then, and we'll retake possession of this. And you're not allowed to question it, because you're not allowed to question documents even purporting to come from a court. And they said, oh, yeah, but you've already told us that you're going to fill it out. I said, well, I'll go down the court and fill it out then if necessary. But that's how fraudulent it is. That document can be found and taken off a website called the Westlaw website, where you get these forms. So any bailiff can get that off there, and it's already pre-sealed as far as they're saying. It's not a seal, it's a stamp. But that.
Do you understand the importance of that, Beeps? Do you understand the importance? I mean, because that's what's going down, really. I mean, okay, not everybody will have them come to a warrant, bring a warrant to the door without even taking you to an alleged court. Yeah, they'll take you into the trick, so therefore but I'm sure that there will be others that are doing this. Yeah, I'm sure it will be being done where the people never even got took to a court, or got took to something that resembled a court, or got a summons to something that resembled a court. You know, they just come with these paperwork and took property off them. And I'm sure, and like that policeman just told him, that they're obliged to do that. No, they're not. That's what they're just told to do. But if they was told to jump off a bridge, they wouldn't do it, would they? So they don't have to do what they're told to do they? We know that. You can't say that, Mr. Policeman, if you list him.
That's what they're saying. And that's the illusion that they're giving people, that it's actually a legitimate document.
right,
And that's exactly the same document that the guy in the county court manager was showing us, myself and Tom, the other day, and shaking while he was showing us, claiming it was so valuable. We can get them off the internet. Thank you very much.
yeah. So, okay, and you've also indicated that the moment you get into this area, you head towards the Enterprise Act 2002, and this is talking about cartel offences. So
yes.
What's the background to this then?
Well, I mean, the background is that we're dealing with cartels, and so there may be in every city, it's looking like, that there are small groups of people who are operating in a private capacity and getting away with it and using the court process to do all their criminal activity. And under that act, it clearly establishes that if they're operating as a cartel, we treat them as a cartel.
While the cat's away, the mice will play. So as long as the people are oblivious to it, their attention's away. Their attention's away from it. They're not thinking about it because they can't see it. It's out of their mind. But when the attention comes on it, yeah, that's when these mice will stop playing, because it's only the people that are going to stop it. That's why everybody needs to understand what it is that's being done, so that you can stop it. And we can all stop it as a unity, as we should do, as responsible adults, not allowing our servants to run amok.
Okay, and we got some comment here from Cyrus Mehta, if I pronounce that correctly. So this is the sort of briefings that lawyers give, amongst the legal profession. So this is a summary of implications to changes. Enterprise and Regulatory Reform Act 2013 makes significant changes to the criminal cartel offence. So people can go online and research. This is informed analysis by the legal professions themselves, but greatly concerned at the action of cartels.
Yeah.
Banks are, on an international scale, LIBOR, we're seeing banks carrying out this criminal activity. But of course, George Osborne, Britain's Chancellor, never talks about criminal activity in the banks. Conservative Prime Minister David Cameron never talks about criminal activity. But in fact, there are laws clearly stating that what's going on if you rig interest rates is criminal. And you're saying here's the courts taking property.
The courts are supporting all this action, and then in fact putting officers out there to go and capture people's homes.
Yeah.
So it's like we've been invaded by another country. They've taken possession of the City of London, and they've got all camps set up in every county court in this country.
Yeah.
And there you go, guys. The pirates landed, and there are foreign vessels in dry dock. They fleeced everyone that was left on the land with their babble, their trickery and their creations of all these different bits and bobs, which actually never applied to any of us anyway in the first place. And actually, none of us were actually ever invited into any of these places either, because it was all by trickery to the all caps name, to the corporation that was created to us without us even knowing it. And therefore didn't make any difference because there is no contract. And therefore no one is actually governed, just as the Baron had said. There is no governed, therefore none of their rules and regulations apply to you unless there's a corpus delicti. Where's the victim? Where's the body of the evidence? Who is it that's making a claim that either man has caused them harm, loss, or any injury? Or if I've come forward to them? Name it, none. So the corporation doesn't exist. And that's why they can't hear you and you can't hear them. But when they try to contract with you, you to be the director of your corporation, so to say, the attorney general of yours, and ask the questions. They're the ones that making the claims. They're the ones that have to carry the burden of proof. Therefore, they must have to provide the evidence, the material evidence or the forensic evidence of the courts to confirm and to substantiate that it's actually a matter of fact, not just a BS crime that's being committed, trying to deceive me and steal my money, my house, my children, so on and so forth.
This is what's appearing to look like.
So when you produce this information in front of journalists, which journalists have actually shown an interest in the documents and what's right or what's wrong with the documents?
Apart from yourselves, the only ones I've seen even get where the pennies dropped was RT.
Russia Today.
Russia Today. Anyone else? We've gone through this, and of course, I've actually been in court, and people have been public. It's been in the court with a group of people as well, and the Judge Cadbury told me that with this information I should be going to Panorama, and I said no, I'm in a court. What on earth's going on? I'm telling you the score that the county courts, and that was in a magistrate's court. I'm in a magistrate's court. Technically a summary criminal court. I'm telling him that the county courts are fraudulent and that every document in there is fraudulent, and I've got evidence of it.
And he suggests you go to Panorama.
Yeah.
Sorry, Panorama's part of the BBC. The BBC can't even deal with the paedophile allegations around Jimmy Savile, but the judges are saying, well, trust the BBC, not the court.
That's right.
That's pretty difficult. So Russia Today, as far as Tom Crawford's repossession, what did Russia Today do that the other journalists didn't then?
Splendid work. They came out the night before. They interacted with everybody in a pub where we were having food and spoke to everybody. And they were there first thing in the morning. They did interviews with the whole family. They did interviews with myself and Roger and anyone who was connected to it in any way, and Salon, anyone who's connected to it in any sort of way. And were very rigorous in what they did.
Right.
And
how would you compare that with who else came who you would say did a reasonable job?
Well, the local papers did a fairly reasonable job, bless them, for all the information that they had on the spot talking to us. After speaking live on the column the other day, the BBC appeared to have parachuted in somewhere down the bottom of the where the crowds were. Yeah. But again, they didn't interview any of us, or anything. And again, we see the cancer situation coming out with Tom, using that as the the situation why all these people have gathered. All these good people have gathered.
I've left this bit in just to, because he speaks very, very well. He puts his points across very well. I like the way he expresses them. So I thought I'd just leave these in, because basically what he's explaining to you now is like, you know, this is the BBC, this is all these media outlets. Any information that they get coming in, rather than focus on the obvious, which is what we're all complaining about, they'll make it out to something else, and they'll blow something else up. So it takes the attention off what the real problem is. All diversion. They're class at diversion.
Because the poor man is unwell, and he's going to be thrown out of his house. So everybody's nothing to do with criminal activity in the courts.
That's right. And the truth of the matter is, everybody who's there knows about the criminal activity, what's going on in the courts.
Right.
And you know, and so the truth will out, as it were, because they obviously scrambled around after talking to you the other day live on the show, and RT, and knowing that RT have got all the ins and outs of it. They scrambled together and put Tom straight away on the first segment of the news at 10 o'clock that night. At the end of the day, the game's up. You know, I mean, really and truthfully, it's starting to get embarrassing.
Yeah. Embarrassing. Not only Britain's courts, but watching the BBC. Well, if we're going to do something about this, it requires a lot of people to be informed and empowered, and to decide to take action. And this brings us round to the British Constitution Group, which will be holding the spring conference weekend of the 20th.
So that's basically what I wanted to show, because of what we were talking about on the actual courts themselves. So you know, for us to even be saying that they're courts, we have to be very careful and mindful. We have to be very mindful of what we're saying, because we're playing a part of it. You know, I keep hearing people saying, I've been summoned to court, I've got a summons to court, I've been to a court, I'm in a court, or, you know, all these things, yeah, but you haven't substantiated the point to whether or not it was a court or not. And the reason I'm saying that it's a must, because otherwise you're regurgitating a lie. You're casting a spell on yourself by saying that you've actually been done by a court when you haven't. That's a lie to yourself. You're lying to yourself and lying to other people, which will make people think that there's actual courts out there, because there isn't any courts out there at the moment. Not unless the procedure's done correctly, guys. So if they're going to claim that it's a court, then they better produce the fact that it's got an application sealed by the court that's attached to an information lay, an affidavit, somebody who's putting an information lay that wants to bring you to that court. And there better be a filing fee receipt of where it's been filed as well. However, either it was paid for by cash, or it was there was an application for a filing fee, you know, filing remission free. Either way, there will be a receipt of where it's come, where the money's, how it was filed. You know. Thank you for this information. I really appreciate it. Thank you. This is it, guys. It's too simple for us to see it. Most of it is too simple for us to see it. That's what it is. And it's too obvious. Everything's too obvious. So, you know what I mean? Just on the courts alone, and the reason I'm saying, I mean, once you start looking into this, you're going to want to see more. You're going to want to see more ways of how you're being deceived. Because remember, once you know how you're being deceived, you can't be deceived anymore. So, you know, and it's good to see how you're being deceived, isn't it? It's catchy. You know, that's what you want to be. That's what you want to be striving for, because, you know, who wants to be deceived? Eh? Well, only fools want to be deceived. So, you know, if you want to be a fool, then that's your choice, isn't it? Because God gave you free will, yeah? God gave you free will. I choose not to be a fool. I mean, I've been a fool 47 years of my life, yeah, because I got fooled. But then I one day just took one step inwards and said, like, you know, come on, Andy, time's time. Tell the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth. What do you know? I had to put my hands up and say, fuck all. Except I do know now, what with my studying, that, you know, a lot of the things that I was told were not true at all, and certainly leading to make you think about things, or putting you in thought rather than putting you in closure. Never presenting any facts. It's just all jibber jabber. all jibber jabber. So only the truth, it's only what people can substantiate. Remember that. The facts tell the truth. People speak, and if the facts substantiate what they're saying is true, then the people are true. If the people speak and the facts say that their people are not true, then they're not true. Very simple, yeah? Keep it simple. KISS. You know, KISS, that's what the anagram of KISS is, by the way. You know, there's a good anagram for it, because remember the other thing as well, yeah? Anything written in all capitals, give me the choice of what language it's in. And if you're going to say it's English, then go and understand what the Oxford Styles Manuals tells you. Anything written in all capitals is an acronym. So KISS is, you know, what is it? What's KISS stand for? Keep it simple, stupid. So what I'm saying is, like, you know, when your name's in all caps, and that's what these courts in speech marks, these councils and whatever, these people are coming to your all caps, and you can't read it. If you can read it, then you're too clever for your own good. And the other thing is, they send it in these letters with nothing on the envelope whatsoever, but there's a little glass square window that you can look through, but you can't see anything in there. But if you can see, then obviously, you know, you don't understand what the four corner rules is, because nothing can be seen there. There's nothing on the envelope. There's nothing in with the four corners of the envelope. So there's nothing actually been sent to you. It's all the trick after trick after trick after trick. But if you don't see what the tricks are, you know, see how they're deceiving you. Yeah. But once you see them, now you can see it's obvious, because they never sent you anything. There was never anything on the envelope. There was nothing on there. And because you picked it up, you put a spell on you. It cast a spell on you. And then you, half of the people, like you said, you know, half the people will go out there and pay the fine. You'll go and pay the fine, but you just haven't told you're fine. You're fine. It's fine. Fine. It's a joke, mate. It's a cruel joke. But like you say, once you step away from that and look on to what it is you're allowing yourself to get caught up in, because you're allowing yourself to be fooled, and you're looking back on yourself and doing the retrospect, which you should almost do, to make sure what you're saying is true, and that you know that it's true because the facts told it to you, not the school teacher or the lawyer or the government or the BBC. Anyway, guys, I just thought I'd put that one out because I thought it was a very good video putting the that information out about the courts. People thought we went to school to be educated. Many still do. School, guys, school is instructing. When you go to school, you're going to be instructed. Okay, that's it. Don't take my word for it. Go and do the etymology on the word school. If you've been schooled, you've been instructed. So you've been told what to think. You've not been told how to think, or whether what you think is right or wrong. You know, you make it's not you that makes the decisions. It's not the school makes the decisions on whether something's right or wrong. It's the facts. The facts tell you what's true, and that tells you whether you've been told bullshit or whether you've been, you know, been instructed with the facts. You know, that's the point. You've all been instructed with the fiction, by the fiction. This is the fiction that they needed you to keep entrapped inside, so that they can fleece your everything that you do. Anyway, guys, which they can't, by the way, which they can't, but they can if you don't know why they can't, because you're tacitly agreeing when you think you know, yeah, and you do something wrong, to tacitly agree because you've just done what you didn't think. That means, you know, you are what you are. Because all of this has happened because you've been deceived. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I'm not here knocking anybody that's been deceived, because I've been deceived. So if I was, I'm knocking myself as well. We've all been an idiot, but we're not all admitted we're idiots. So on that note, I'll say, as always, keep smiling, and hope this video comes across as it is intended. So God bless. Take care. Bye-bye for now.